Hello again. More decimals, only this time, today we're turning a decimal into a fraction. And we kind of talked about this before, and these are ones you should know. I have told you since day one that whenever you have a half, it's going to be a form of 0.5, 0.5, 0.50, 0.500, 0.5000. All of those are half of their denominators. 5 tenths, 5's half a 10. 50 hundredths, 50's half of 100. So anytime you have a half, if it's in tenths, it's 0.5, it's a hundredths, 0.50, in thousands, it's 0.500. Okay? And then if you think of quarters, this is 1/4 of a dollar, right? Is a quarter, 25 cents. That's how I think of it. 3/4 is 75 cents. That's how I remember those. Then again, we have the nickels. It takes 20 nickels to make. Yeah, that works in my brain, but I'm not sure if it will work in your brain. Okay, so these are ones that you use frequently that you might want to memorize, it says. But if you can't remember it, we have an easy way to find it, and that's what we're going to learn today, is how to change them over. And I still don't have the right book. Sorry. But that's okay, because this is super easy. So we're going to do D and H. I'm going to let you guys do A, B, C, and E, F, G. So on section 1, we're going to do D, which is 2/5 equals what decimal? Okay? All right. So remember I told you this is a fraction is a division problem, right? And which one is the divisor? D and D, right? The denominator, oh, we're doing number D. Denominator is the divisor, okay? So this, I said at the beginning of the year, I said you don't know how to do this, but now you do. We don't know how to divide 2 by 5, but now we do, okay? Now you know to put an understood decimal there. Remember, annex a 0, and 5 goes into 20 how many times? 4. 5 times 4 is 20. So 2/5 equals 4/10. See how easy that is? You were nervous, weren't you? I could tell Allie was very nervous. Who do I keep forgetting? Shaylee and Avery. I'm always talking to my class. I'm sorry. Shaylee, Avery, Bronson, I'm sorry. I haven't made fun of you for a while. Don't take it personally. And Casey, I started making fun of her at first, and I was trying to lay off a little bit. And I know I'm forgetting other people, but please don't take it personally. I love all of you guys, and you're not here. Oh, you know what? I do have my list. Who have I not picked on for a while? Callie, Sterling, Micah, Mason. How could I forget Mason? Allie, Jacob, Michaela, Casey, Hudson, Emma. Occasionally I've said something about Emma. Maddie, and then the poor forgotten Avery that never gets her stick pulled. Avery, Shaylee, and Ronson. Okay. You all were groaning, weren't you? The ones that I haven't called on, you were groaning. I know you were. Okay. And it's so easy. It's so easy. It's so easy. It's so yeah. Okay. So 2/5 becomes 4/10. Now, I said you do A, B, C, and you're going to do E, F, G. I'm going to do H because F through H, let me erase this. H is 9/5, is that right? Sorry. 50ths. Okay. 9/50ths equals what decimal? Okay, so we're going to take 50 into 9. Now this is the biggest mistake you guys are going to start making. This is why I've tried all year long to try to push that. The divider is the denominator is the divider, or the divisor is the denominator. Divisor is the denominator. Because you're going to look at this and you're going to try to do this. Oh, this is easy. 50 into 9. Okay, but is this a whole number? Because if you do it like this, you're going to end up with a whole number, a mixed number, right? This is not a whole number. This is a pizza cut into 50 pieces. You only have 9 left. That's not a whole pizza, not even close. Okay, so that's when you have to always think the bottom number is the one that does the dividing. Okay, so it's this way. If you end up with 9/50 equals, let's see, that would end up being 9 times 4, 36, 9, 10, like 5 point something. That's not 5 whole pizzas, right? Okay, keep your brain straight. All right, so it's 9. Put your decimal there, extend out your bracket, and then annex a 0. And what did it, now I forgot what we were doing. Oh yeah, we're going until the problem terminates, right? We're not rounding at this point. When it says to round to a certain decimal, you do that. But if it says to Terminator, I am the Terminator. You probably have never seen the Terminator movies, have you? Those are from my childhood. So you're going to keep doing these until it no longer has, I'm looking at the wrong page totally, sorry. You're going to keep doing these until it no longer has a remainder. Okay, yeah, I see what you're doing now. I was looking at yesterday's. All right, 50 goes into 90 one time, because 2 50s would be 100, right? 90 minus 50 is 40. Bring down that 0. And 50, think of, this is half of 100, and there's 4 of them, so there would be 8 of them, right? Plus 8 times 5 is 40, and 0 times 8 is 0. 400 minus 400 is 0. So 9/50ths equals 18/100ths. Do you see? So easy. Yes, it's very easy. So it won't take you long to do today's page. The rest of it is doing some more practicing of the rounding off to the nearest whatever. I'll do the first ones of those with you just to help you remember. Even though the other nice thing is you guys can just go play yesterday's video if you don't remember, or you're not handing in your math pages, you're just taking pictures, so you still have them, so you can always go back and look. Okay, so 2A is round off to the nearest tenth, and it's 0.58. So the 8 is going to die, and it makes the 5 round up, right? So we have 6/10. Okay, 3A, we're supposed to round to the nearest hundredth, and we have 0.675. Okay, so to the nearest hundredth, hundredths have 2 decimal places, so that one dies. And I just realized my reel became my reel is another one I haven't been able to heckle. He became a leopard right before we shut everything down. And he's at home watching these videos with us, but he probably is so clueless. What is she talking about? Because I'm referring to things that we did earlier in the year. I'm sorry, my reel. But we talked about when we were rounding that we were soldiers, and if you shot, the first person you shot, if he was a high-ranking officer, which we say is 5 and up, then he's dead and he gets promoted. But if it's 4 and down, a low-ranking officer, then he doesn't get promoted. It was just a silly way to try to remember how to round, because it's kind of tricky when you do every single spot. Okay, so look to the right. He kills a high-ranking officer, so he gets promoted to 8. His buddy in front of him is just standing there backing him up. He doesn't get to go. He doesn't get to be rounded up. Okay, so that is 68/100ths. That's 3A. Now let's look at 4A. 4A is 13 1/4. Oh. Round off to the nearest whole number. Okay, so it's not decimals. 13 1/4. Okay, so you have to think of the fraction. Remember I told you that, let's see, 1/2. It's 1/2 and up gets rounded up. So is a 4th smaller or larger than a half? A 4th is smaller, so that gets rounded down to 13. We haven't really done that. We did that a lot in zebras, actually, didn't we, Myriel? So you just have to think of the fraction and decide whether or not it's larger or smaller than half. In fourths, what would be half? 2/4, right? The next one is in ninths. So what would be half in ninths? That one's kind of weird. Half in ninths would be 4.5, and this is not a real fraction. But you would know that 4/9 would be smaller than half, and 5/9 would be larger than half. Do you see? So you're thinking of what half is in that denominator. Let's see the next one. Let's just do these. I just gave you this one. There's A. Okay, B is 5 1/9. Like I said, 4.5/9 would be half of 9. So 1/9 is lower. So 5 rounds down to 5. Okay? C says 8 3/11. You see all this? Okay, see 8 3/11. My Hudson and I are screaming because this is kind of messy. I'm sorry, Hunter. My OCD is screaming. Okay, 8 3/11. Okay, so think, what would half be in 11ths? What's half of 11? It looks like pi, doesn't it? Okay, half of 11 would be 5 1/2, right? So that means 5 11ths and below are less than half, and 6 11ths and above would be half over half. Okay, 3 11ths falls lower than 5 1/2, so it's less than half, so it's 8. Do you see? Okay, D, I'm going to erase these because it'll go off the screen. Okay, D is 6 7/9, and that's the last one. The other one's green. Okay, so we talked about this before. What's half in 9? 4 1/2 is half of 9. So is 7 more or less than 4 1/2? It's more. So that one gets to round up to 7. Do you see? See, it's really pretty easy. You just got to think of what half is in the denominator, whatever denominator they're using. E, I know, is green, and we don't have to do it, but just for the sake of doing it, they're throwing us a lot of odd numbers here. Like 9, half of 9 is 4 1/2. Half of 3 is 1 1/2. So 1/3 is smaller than half. Then 1 1/2 is half of 3, right? That's the halfway mark. So 2/3 is more than half. Do you see? So 1 2/3 would round up to 2. See? It's really not that hard. Okay, and then the rest of it, I know, you know what I'm going to say. The rest of it is all yours. You're reviewing everything. Don't forget on number 11, section 11 on the back, that you have a whole bunch of numbers. I don't think you've done this in a while. We have 0.29, and we have 0.094, and we have 0.3, and then we have 1.09, and so forth. And you're supposed to put them in order from least to greatest. Okay, so remember, in order to compare them, this is a whole number. Anything with a whole number is going to be bigger than these, right? Okay, then compare the tenths place. So if we were doing these three, the tenths place, the smallest one would be between these two because they're both 0.0, and then they're both 0.9, and then this one would be 0.090. So 94 or 90, think of them as whole numbers when you do this. 90 or 94, 90 is smaller. So if they didn't have the 1, that one would go first. But since it has the 1, that one's actually, of all these 4, is the biggest, right? Okay, and then when you write it, you can either write it with or without the annex 0, your choice. But since there's some with 3 places, you're going to have to go in and give all of them 3. They're all going to be the same last name. They're all getting adopted into one family, and so they all have to have the same last name. So they're all going to be thousands. So make sure each one has 3 decimal places. I don't think any of them have 4, do they? No, just 3. Okay, and then just forget about it. Turn this into a comma, because that's like 1090, okay? Or like I said, do the whole numbers first. You've got 1 with 1, 2 with 1, 3 with 1. You have 3 with 1, so we have 1.09, 1.29, and 1.3. Okay, so those are going to be the biggest 3 because they all have a whole number and the others don't. Okay, so just make them all have the same last name. If they just have, I'm sorry, I don't have the page. If they just have 1 digit, you need to annex 2 to make it thousandths. If it has 2 digits, you still need to annex another one to make 1,000. If it already has 3 digits, leave it alone. And then, like I said, if I was going to compare these 3, I would just forget about the decimals and look at them as numbers. Which one's the smallest? This one. So this would go on the first line. Which one's the second smallest? 290. And then 333 would be the biggest. Then don't forget to add back in the decimals. See? Easy peasy. The other way, easier way, is which one has more in the tenths place. You can do that too. 1/10, 2/10, 3/10. Which one's the smallest? The 1/10's the smallest. The 2/10 is, see? So there's a couple ways to do it. And you might even think of another way. Okay, that's everything for this page. See you later.